what the heck have I been doing? And I was in the book section. I have been reinvigorated. Assalamualaikum, welcome back to another video. We're gonna do a recap of my no buy low buy this year and my plans for the following year. So I used to take the question of why very lightly, like why you need to have a good reason why you want to do something, why you want to pursue something, why you want to spend money on something. And the thing that I've realized over time as I've become more and more patient is the fact that it's extremely important to understand your why in order to stay consistent and to be able to achieve the goal that you've set out for yourself. So why do a no buy or a low buy? First of all, in my specific case at least, I have found that alhamdulillah, I'm super lucky and I have pretty much almost everything that I could have ever wanted or needed, and everything else is for the most part excess that I don't necessarily need in most categories. The second reason is the fact that I have a huge space issue. It kind of looks like, sometimes when I look at this when I'm editing, it looks like I have like a paper background, but this is actually my living space, and alhamdulillah it is a reasonable amount of space for me and my husband, but it's kind of compact. I only have one bedroom, so there's not that much space and not that many storage options, though we've kind of made storage options for ourselves. But for the most part, the space is full. I've done a good job of decluttering and making things a little bit more presentable over the last few months compared to when we first moved into the place. But I just have so much stuff. I have so much decor, kitchen stuff, which is like my kryptonite. I love kitchen things, but I have like alhamdulillah like everything I could possibly need, and like I'm constantly being gifted something or the other by my family, so it's not necessary for me to really do that much or purchase more things because I already have so much, alhamdulillah. The reason is actually the fact that I kind of feel guilty because if I don't get good use out of something, even if I've gotten good use out of it before, if I'm not constantly getting use out of it, I feel so guilty and I feel like it's taking up space, and because it's taking up space, I should be able to use it and have many uses for it. So if it's not serving its purpose, I feel like I wasted my money or I wasted someone else's money who gave it to me as a gift. I just want to have good use out of all the things that I have, essentially. And the biggest revelation probably is the fact that my motivation is not actually money or saving money when it comes to doing a low buy or a no buy. And that is because, to be honest, for the most part, I don't buy that much stuff. But then when I do buy stuff, it should not like feel like a waste afterwards. And for the most part, I also do a good job of getting really good deals or finding things that are really cheap. Like even nicer things or more expensive things, I always wait so I can coordinate some kind of sale or take advantage of a sale. So it's not really like saving money isn't really the motivation, or not the primary motivation. It is definitely a motivation still, but for the most part it's not about that. Right now it's primarily about saving space or taking advantage of the little space I have and maximizing it by not filling it up with stuff. So I think it would be good to, before we go into the new year, take a look back at this full year and how did I do with my no buy low buy. I definitely wanted to do like a recap like every few months, but I kind of didn't feel like I had that much to say and I wasn't sure what it was or like how I wanted to say what I wanted to say. But now that the whole year is basically passed, we're in the middle of December almost, I have some thoughts and reflections. First, I would say that if I did keep some kind of note or some kind of tally for the most part, I would have a better idea on how much I actually spent in excess, because I definitely spent in excess. In the whole year, I spent probably 2 to 3 months at least where I was getting a lot of takeout. That was definitely like my pain point. I was eating a lot of takeout, even though it was like affordable options, it was still a lot of takeout. And I just really like, we'll get into this later, but I really don't like to spend out of necessity. I like to feel like it's something I want to do and I can do, you know. It just feels like I have more control of my money and my personal situation if it's not something I have to do. And why did I end up spending so much money when it came to takeout and all of that? It was primarily because of me being lazy, and second, not planning in advance and thinking like I'll be fine or this is a problem for Safa in the future. And it always ended up resulting in a situation where I felt like I had no choice but to rely on takeout, and I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible this year, because I would rather spend that money on a nicer meal down the road instead of something that I have to do out of necessity, or just spend that money on something else entirely. Another reason that I had this issue is because I was traveling. Alhamdulillah, that was like so exciting. I actually went like to a few places, although like it was more like I had a layover and then I took advantage of the layover. But alhamdulillah, I got to go to Pakistan, I went to Saudi Arabia, I got to do Umrah, alhamdulillah, like very exciting. It was my first time being in Saudi Arabia and like being like a conscious human being, like an adult. It was so exciting. And then I also did go travel to Dubai, and that was also an interesting experience. However, because of all of that, I ended up spending more than I initially planned to. However, I did anticipate like these trips at least like a couple months in advance, so I knew these things were coming. And that's another reason why I was trying to be more conscious with my spending, because I wanted to be able to very freely spend on those trips. Not that I spent that much either, it was mostly just like flights and accommodations that took the biggest chunk out of everything, because alhamdulillah, again, like I have everything I need already and I just don't have a space to add more junk into my space. I'm currently trying to get rid of things, that anything, even if it's the tiniest thing, out of my space, because it just feels so much more relaxing when surfaces are clear, there's empty drawers available to you. It's such a nice feeling. So now let's plan for what I want to do in the coming year and what my plans are for my low buy, no buy. So I think you need to first decide if you're going to do a no buy or a low buy, and I had to think about this for a little bit, and realistically it's going to be a low buy again this year. And that's because there are a few items that are things that I don't absolutely need, but I very much want, and they're kind of like teetering on want, need, and like an improvement in quality of life would be found in these items, but they're not absolutely necessary. However, I want to invest in these specific few items. And so my plan is, in the coming months, whether it's in December or in the following year, I want to keep an eye out for these items, and if I'm able to find them on a really good sale or a deal, then I'm willing to purchase them, because most of these items are like higher ticket items in my mind, at least. For some people, like I don't think like $50 is that much anymore, but for specific items, for me to spend $50 on them, I feel like it's a lot more. So we're going to definitely be going in the new year with the intention of having a low buy, and I think we should go by categories to explain like or to have like guidelines, because you can't just, at least for myself, I don't think I can like just be like don't buy anything or only buy what you absolutely need, because there's certain things that have so much excess of that I kind of want to like not buy anything at all unless those things run out. And so that's why I want to pre-plan my purchases and just have an idea on what specific items I want, so that if I do find them on sale or on a really good deal, then I can go ahead and purchase them. But in order to do that, I think what I'm going to do, which I have yet to do, is compile a singular list of the specific items that I want and am on the lookout for, just so it's easier to keep track of, because sometimes I'm like surprised by how much I actually want. And then like when I actually am looking to purchase, when there are deals going on, like for example Black Friday or Boxing Day, I kind of forget and blank out, and then I regret afterwards. I think it's just easier to go over the different categories of spending like I mentioned. So let's start off with food, which like I mentioned was probably my biggest pain point this past year. I spent too much on takeout, and what I'm thinking of doing is just trying to again pre-plan in advance and anticipate when I'm gonna have less time and more time. I did make a similar video at the start of the year or last year about my low buy, and I'll link it over here for you guys if you're interested. But my plan this year, because I do really want to enjoy going out for food, the problem is that I feel like food is more expensive and you're getting smaller portions. And second, I want to enjoy the experience. I don't want to feel rushed or like I'm starving and I just need anything. So similar to last year, I just want to make sure that I am planning ahead. And the thing that I have found that has been working for me is to kind of plan roughly 2 to 3 weeks in advance, or like just like write down what I'm anticipating, like what are the different things I'm anticipating that I'm gonna have to do in the coming weeks. And based off that, I have a really good idea then, instead of going based off like 1 week after each week, week by week. The advantage of planning like 2 to 3 weeks in advance is like I get a really good idea, really good aerial view of like what my schedule is looking like, what my work schedule is, what my other commitments are, and what are the things that I want to do in terms of like food and everything related to that essentially. The second category within food is groceries. So one thing that I have been trying to work on, but I keep unfortunately failing over and over again, is making sure I reduce my food waste by as much as possible. Like I would like to just never ever throw anything out, like ever. And the problem with that is, unfortunately, sometimes because I'm not planning things or preparing things in a timely fashion, I end up having leftover food, and if I don't take care of it in an appropriate time, then it ends up going to waste. So the plan would be to just basically try to buy smaller portions. And one thing that really works for me when it comes to like my fridge space and freezer space is not as much of an issue. Like if it's frozen, I'm usually okay and like I don't need to throw anything out. But when it comes to the fridge, I find that I need to basically have everything pushed to the front, even though it can feel really overwhelming. And sometimes my husband's like, I don't know what's in the fridge, like it just feels like there's so much stuff. But what it is sometimes there's not that much stuff, but I bring and push everything forward so I can see it, because the further back it is, it like the more likely I will miss something. And so in order to prevent things from going bad at the back of the fridge, I try to push everything forward. Now aesthetics wise, like it's fine, but what it is sometimes it does feel a little overwhelming, and it feels like you have such a full fridge, and then you find out it's not as full, you don't have everything you need, and now you need to get takeout or you need to do another grocery run, and it's already like, I don't know, like 7, 8, 9 p.m. and you don't want to go out. But that's what I want to do when it comes to food. I think that'll work really well for me. The second category that I'm doing kind of okay in is clothing. For the most part, my goals are always to just not buy any clothes. And the only way I can do that is, first of all, I'm not easily enticed by ads online, because for the most part, everything is like really inappropriate for me to wear anyway. So it's not really like, I'm not really bothered that much. But I, alhamdulillah, have like so many clothes, and my mom is always getting really upset with me because I'm not wearing all my nice clothes. I just like, there's, you know, you have a few clothes that you just wear and like they're worn down, but you're just so cozy in them that you can't let go of them. I've actually let go of like 2 different gamises, and I'm like so sad about them because they're like so comfortable, but they're so worn down now, and I have so many more clothes that I'm not wearing. So my goal is to not continue to not purchase anything, because like I don't really wear Western clothes that much. It's primarily Desi clothes, and Desi clothes come with their own set of issues. First of all, like their outfits are unique, and like you can't really mix and match for the most part. You might be able to mix and match like a dupatta, but for the most part you can't really mix and match different shalwar kameezes and kameezes. Like the clothes are too unique. And so the problem with that is you end up having way more than if you were to have like a capsule wardrobe or just have like a more minimalist wardrobe. But that is definitely something that I want to focus on when it comes to my Desi clothes as well. What I do is I basically never look at the clothing section whenever I'm at any stores. I try to stay away as much as possible because I will end up liking something and then buy it. When it comes to Desi clothes though, so for example, I basically purchased a lot of clothes when I went to Pakistan, and I picked them up over there, brought them back. And the problem with that is it's just so much stuff. That's what it is. And I feel like really guilty because yes, I didn't spend like almost any money on clothes prior to that, or in the past year. Like all of the money that I spent on clothes, which was still a significant amount, I don't have the numbers, but I've been told it was a significant amount by my mom. And so like the problem is like I'm still spending money on clothes then, right? But it's not in the same traditional way. So in my head I'm like, oh, I didn't spend that much money, but I probably spent like more, if anything. The plan here is to basically focus on using what I have and not purchasing any more clothes. So every single time my mom shows me more clothes that she wants to buy for me, I just tell her no, I don't need it, I don't need it. And sometimes they're really beautiful like outfits, and sometimes they're really good deals, but I'm just like, come on, like let's not do it, let's not do it. And like I even tell her like I don't even want you to buy for me, because first of all, like she's bought clothes for me my whole life. Like I think you know, like she doesn't need to do that anymore. But it is definitely extremely tempting, especially when you see the prices, but I just think it's not very sustainable behavior. And I don't think, like, it's like gluttony and greed, you know, to just hoard and have so many clothes and just keep buying. It's just not really for me, I think. Or like, I have no problem with having a lot of clothes, but when I think about like all of the wastage, all of the poor quality like fabrics that are being used, poor quality conditions of the people that are making the fabrics, even if they're like machine made and stuff, like I just think it's not necessary right now for me to do this. So I'm trying to hold off from purchasing more clothes unless absolutely necessary, or like very much like societal expectation, like. And when I say that, like if it's like, oh, like you have to wear like a brand new outfit because like your in-laws are coming or something like that, and I'm like, okay, fine. But even then I try to push back, because I'm like, I feel like I have, like, they haven't seen every single thing I've worn, right? So I should be able to reuse outfits. Like it shouldn't be that much of a big deal. Like this is a Desi person problem, I think. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with when it comes to clothes. And the other thing actually when it comes to Western clothes is the fact that inshallah, you know, like in the future if I want to travel, like the problem is that I don't have as many Western outfits. And so if I want to travel, either I have to travel very heavy with a lot of Desi outfits, which like everyone is encouraging me to wear like more modest Western outfits, because it'll just like, I'll be able to blend in where I'm going without being like as noticeable. I mean, even though this is definitely gonna get me noticed regardless, because it always does, but it's just like something that I'm trying to navigate. And my goal is to not purchase any more Western clothes. Like maximum that I'm willing to do is like a single item if I absolutely have to, but my plan is to get away with not purchasing any at all. The third pretty big category is skincare, makeup, and all the personal care type of items. There have definitely been a couple of things that I really wanted to suddenly purchase, and there are things that I actually wanted to purchase like 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years ago, but I would just put it off because it was like, okay, like you spent so much money on other things, so like let's just cool it and think about it later. And technically, like I could justify purchasing certain personal care items or skincare items or like devices or whatever. But the plan is to not do that because, like I mentioned, I have a very small space and I'm trying to consolidate everything into smaller spaces so that I'm not just taking over like my entire room, my washroom, and like everywhere with all these different items. And so the plan is to basically use what I have, and technically like with the way I use like my skincare products and everything, honestly, like if I don't purchase anything for probably like 5 to 6 months, I would be fine, with the exception of maybe like sunscreen and maybe an oil cleanser. So the plan here again is actually to follow the 2 out, 1 in rule, because typically there's a 1 in 1 out rule that a lot of minimalists or a lot of people will suggest, which is basically like use the full product and then replace it, or then purchase another product in that category. And my thing is like I have enough that it makes more sense, especially since I don't want to have so much excess, to use up 2 products at a time and then replace it with a single product if I need to. And right now, if I were to finish like my sunscreen, I have another sunscreen. I have multiple bottles of sunscreen available for me to use. If I finish my moisturizer, I think I have like a couple moisturizers there. If I finish like my 2 currently, like what I'm using, toners, I have like 3 or 4 brand new big bottles of toners. So I find that sometimes when I think of the 1 in 1 out rule, it's like, okay, you finish one item, then you can purchase another item. But it's really like you finish an item and then you can open the item that you already have purchased from like months and months ago, because you were hoarding. And so I think like my plan when it comes to skincare is to just use what I have, and when I'm getting down to having like just one backup of that category of item, then I think I'm going to consider purchasing more. And then the way I purchase is always in bulk. I don't like to pay for shipping, and I prefer to consolidate deals as much as possible and like get a couple things at once. So the plan is to hopefully not run out of like one thing and then like one category of thing and then not be able to replace it. Like I'm hoping to use up all of the items in like a reasonable amount of time within like a couple weeks of each other, so that I can purchase together rather than having to buy one single item. I feel like that was really specific and detailed and didn't need to be, but that's okay. When it comes to makeup though, I have like so much makeup for someone that does not really wear makeup except for when I'm doing these videos and the rare instances when we have like a family dawat or something like that. I started like a project pan, I think more than a year ago, and I didn't update it because the reason was, I'll link it here somewhere, but the reason I didn't update it is because none of the products got used up. Like I have been using, in my opinion, a lot of like the concealer I have and the foundation and all of this stuff. And I haven't purchased anything except for two things. We'll get into that, but those things kind of make sense. But nothing has gotten used up because a lot of these products don't get used up so quickly. And especially if you're not like a heavy user, they don't get used up quickly. And so I have all this like makeup that's just not been used. And honestly, it's several years old at this point, but I think it's fine because they're like dry products. When it comes to like my purchases in the last year, I've only purchased two things. One is another foundation, which I purchased in Pakistan because I wanted to avoid, and I felt really guilty using the products that I had purchased that are on the boycott list, the BTS list. The second thing that I purchased regularly is mascara, the one with the eyelashes. That's the one. And the reason is because I noticed that I do need to replace that product regularly in order to prevent potential having like any kind of infection. I've noticed that it does affect me, whereas if I'm using really old foundation or other products, it doesn't seem to affect me as much, so I just don't care as much. And for the items that I had excess of, first of all, when it comes to foundation, I had some really dark shades that were not my shade. No one cared to explain to me how that stuff works, but certain shades are extremely dark for me, but they would better suit some of my cousins or friends or other people, and so I gave it to them. And so that's what I did to kind of like decrease my supply of makeup. And now everything I have, like I can see myself potentially having to use it in the next year or so, and so I've just kept some of it. Like I had like 6-7 nail polishes that are all kind of similar shades, like for the most part. And so what I did was I gave them away like to my cousin who I think will use them way more than me, and I kept 2 for myself. I was gonna keep 1, but I was like, no, I think I need to feel like I have a lot, so I kept 2. The next big category though for me is books, education, everything in that realm of things. So I'm in a bit of a pickle. I'm facing this dilemma where I want to reduce my screen time, and in order to reduce the screen time, like one obvious thing is to read physical books rather than digital books. I don't have a Kindle. I don't want to purchase a Kindle. If I were to purchase something, I think I would purchase a Kobo, but I have an iPad. The iPad can also act as an e-reader. And so I don't think that's necessary, even though I've been so tempted so many times. And like it's just so tempting, but the reality is I need to first be able to get myself to read books, and I haven't been reading books. I have a bunch of books, and I'm saying all of this, but I actually just bought this book, Everything is Beeped by Mark Manson, and I just bought it like literally an hour ago. But it's because I got this for $8, and online it's like $25 on Amazon, and I was like, what the heck have I been doing? And I was in the book section. I have been reinvigorated. I love books. And I was like, man, if I go down this path, I'm going to start spending all the money here and like hoarding all the books. And I was like, no, we need to control that. But so like the situation I'm in is I'm trying to reduce my screen time, and that's had such a huge positive impact on my life. But if I just start buying books, I don't think that makes a lot of sense either, even for like writing. Let me show you guys. So I have this planner that I bought actually like I think I bought it like 3 years ago and I never properly fully used it. And I want to start using like a physical planner for certain types of things so that I can prevent myself from being on the screen all the time. The problem with all of that is the fact that then I'll just end up buying like a new planner, and then maybe I won't be satisfied with that. I want another one, etc., etc. I decided to just see how I'll do with this one, which isn't numbered. Like, you can put in the dates yourself. And honestly, like, Safa in 2021 knew what was up. Like, I found a good planner, and I just feel like the reason I didn't use it was because I just wanted to feel like I was doing something by buying the planner, but you need to actually use the planner. And the thing is, like, I fall into this trap all the time where it's like you have this brand new thing, you don't want to ruin it. And I'm like, what is the point? Like, there's so much like more productivity that I could have engaged in or, you know, had if I just actually used it. And so I am just using like what I have before I consider buying one. And if I were to buy one, I might buy one at the end of the year, at the end of the month. But for now, I'm just using what I have to see and prove to myself that I can stay consistent and actually want to use this and know that I'll get some benefit out of using this. So even though I want to do a low buy in this category, I can see myself from all the categories spending a little bit more here if it actually like pans out in the next month or 2-3 months. If I find that I'm actually using the books and reading the books, then maybe it is beneficial, because especially when it comes to my screen time, like, I want to reduce it by as much as possible. And there's so many benefits to using physical books when it comes to trying to avoid distractions, that I think it will be worth it. But I want to be a little bit more conscious of like how I'm spending that time and that money. The last big category would have to be home and kitchen stuff. And when it comes to all the kitchen appliances, alhamdulillah, I have like everything that I could possibly need. There's only one really big want, but I'm not going to mention it, but it's a huge want. And the only reason I haven't gotten it for myself is because I don't have the space, and it's just a little too niche. And I just think like I have so many like alhamdulillah appliances, and I think I should just continue to use them and get the most out of them, and then moving forward we'll see. Now, how can you prevent yourself from getting tempted to purchase a bunch of items, or just even a few items when you're trying to do a no buy or a low buy? I have a couple of suggestions, and the first very obvious, what is wrong with my English today? The first obvious one is to unsubscribe from everything when it comes to, you know, like the newsletters or even like accounts that you follow on Instagram, TikTok, or other social media pages. Oh my god. And the reason is obvious, because the less you're going to be exposed, the less you're going to be tempted, and you won't find yourself feeling like you need to get something just because it's on sale, because that's how they usually get you to purchase things. The second biggest thing that's had probably the biggest impact is the fact that I prevented myself from being a huge victim of the endless scroll. If you look at my screen time video over here, you'll find that my main issue was that I was constantly like engaged in the endless scroll, and it resulted in me consuming so much information. And the only like, it's mostly like things being sold to you, right? Recommending products, and while they can be so interesting and some things can be extremely useful, I think the less you're exposed to it for the most part, and unless you're like specifically looking for, you know, like a really great camera or a really great type of book or something like that, like you'll just find yourself wanting more things than you actually need. And I definitely did find that for myself, but like staying away from it has made me like feel so free. Like, I'm gonna do an update, like a 1-month update on like me not like reducing my screen time. Like, it is life-changing. Other things you can do is try to avoid watching haul videos and like restocking videos and things like that. While they can be extremely satisfying, you might feel the temptation and need to go ahead and purchase those items even though you may not need those things and your life was fine without them. Instead, I would recommend that you try to organize, reorganize, or like just live in your stuff and see what you have. Like, I reorganized certain drawers that I was not utilizing the best, and I found that I had so many things, so many more things than I thought I did, and I took the time to consolidate. Where like before, for example, when it comes to skincare, I had skincare in like 3 or 4 different places. I just brought everything to basically one spot, and even though it's not the most efficient in the sense of like bioavailability and the effectiveness of the products because I keep everything in the washroom now and it's more likely to be exposed to heat for larger periods of time. The benefit of that though is I can see how much I actually have rather than just telling myself, oh, I don't have that much, because I'm just looking at one of 4 sections where I keep skincare. Now it's all in one section and I can see, oh, I actually have this much or don't. The last recommendation would have to be to look for alternative forms of entertainment, because window shopping and going to Winners is like so much fun, but you're just exposing yourself more to more things that you could possibly just swipe your card and get and have in your home and feel accomplished, but you don't necessarily need. And so alternative forms for me, I have spent less time on my phone exposed to ads, exposed to products, and I have spent less time in Winners. And the thing that's worked for me, I think, is just trying to divert my attention to something that's a little bit, I feel, more educational and substantial, whether it's just like learning about what's going on in the world and news and stuff like that. I like feel more fulfilled, and I also find myself appreciating the things I have more. And I don't think like I ever felt insecure about it, like how much or how little I have, but I think there isn't this subconscious like comparison of like whatever I'm seeing like on a store display or on an Instagram post or YouTube video compared to what I have in my home. And I do think like I just appreciate what I have a lot more because of it. So basically going forward into 2025, I'm hoping that I'll just be a more conscious consumer and also like just someone that appreciates what I already have. And I feel like I've already been kind of noticing that in myself in the last couple of months. I'm hoping to just continue with that because I just think that not everything is about earning money so you can just spend it on things, whether it's junk or not. So those are some ways that you can reduce your temptation when it comes to shopping and staying on track with your low buy or your no buy. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are also going to be participating in a low buy or no buy, like which one are you participating in, and like what are the restrictions or the exceptions you have for your personal case. Let me know in the comments below. Check out some of my other videos on my channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.